Hey everybody, welcome to our virtual happy hour, virtual tasting. We got some great guests today with us. Very excited. We've got Miss Even Keel, Robin Quivers. This young lady spends every single day of her life taking incoming from a bunch of men, singing songs about her,
That's
uh,
why I drink.
asking her who she's dating, asking her to date them, and constant plummeting. And Robin always is just perfectly peaceful and calm. And Robin, we're excited to have you today. And we've also got your good friend Scott Lewis, uh, Scotty, old buddy of mine, V Wine Cellars. If you don't know Scott, Scott has a lot of people on this, but Scotty owns one of the greatest wine shops in the United States of America. I believe that's probably where your and Robin's first meeting was. But V Wine Cellars in Yountville is iconic for anybody that drinks wine and has been in the valley. You've been in there, whether you're looking for something expensive and overpriced like DRC, or something affordable like Booker that scores the same. You you go to V Wine Cellars. How's it going, guys?
Going good. How are you? Thank you for having us.
We're excited, Robin. Scotty, is it freezing cold and windy there like it is here?
It's a balmy like mid 80s right now. In fact, we're cooking a little paella on the deck for post production of this, so it's quite nice. It's been warm up here, so Napa's been pretty warm this year thus far. But what about down south?
Oh, miserable. So I usually do these out on my deck in the vineyard, and shit, it's blowing. It's probably 68. We got all the Napa boys coming in trying to get out of that Napa weather and 102-degree weather, and average wines are going to come here to Paso for the weekend.
Okay, try more average wines, I guess. Yeah.
You know that I've heard that's a really wonderful region, actually, Eric. But Scott won't ever send me there.
No, Robin, he knows one thing very well. The day you come here is the day you probably buy a vacation home here, and he loses you. And Scott's one of those guys that likes to keep people on a leash and under his thumb, and that's okay.
Well,
Uh,
I actually lived down there before you lived down there, and actually, when I first moved to Napa, I worked down there in Morro Bay for a bit, for about 3 years, and had some great fun. I met some great wine people down there: Mark Goldberg, Stefan Aseo from L'Aventure, Goldberg from Windward. Quite the characters, and quite Chris Cherry from Villa Creek. So it was in the infancy when I was down there. It was 20 years ago. It was a beautiful region, and in fact, I remember telling Mr. Juan Mercado from Realm when I came up here and saying, like, you need to take a look at Paso because it's a growing region. It's got great potential. There's mavericks down there, such as Mr. Jensen himself. But yeah, it really came a long way, and it's a fantastic region to visit. So as soon as Eric throws up the guest house for us, Robin, we'll be going down.
Guest house is
It always costs you something.
no, nothing's free. The guest house is finished literally tonight because there's some people that are in the background with you. Juan Mercado and Mark Gunn are coming to stay in it. Little background. So the Fucking Irishman was born in Limerick, Ireland. Why he would have left Ireland, I don't know. But Scotty's served at some of the greatest hotels in the world. Management, food and beverage. Ended up in the Central Coast, left the Arizona Biltmore running food and beverage, came to the Central Coast. That's where we met. But if you can't make it in Paso, you go to Napa. So then he took off. He went to Napa, had a cushy job. And let me ask you about that real quick, because you have a cushy job at Bellagio. Robin, you know it. It's across the street from the shop.
Oh, absolutely. That's where I was staying when I first met him. He was the head of food and beverages there when I met him.
So
You actually didn't have.
So Robin, what's he
V-wine
doing? Is he
before yet.
knocking on? Is he knocking on your door at night? What the hell's going on?
Well, somehow they wrangled me into like a dinner, private dinner on the veranda, that sort of thing. And I thought that happened for everybody. So I was like, oh, this is just a part of being at this hotel, like being on a ship and being at the captain's table.
Well, that's kind of odd because when I was there, he wrangled me to what he said was a party, and I get to his place, it was just me and him, and it was awkward. So I thought maybe you got invited to that same party, but
I got the more upscale treatment.
so Scotty, you got this cushy job, and by the way, everybody, we're starting with the 18 Grenache. These were bottled just a little bit ago. To me, they're very big right now. Not near as overwhelmingly ripe. They're just massive wines like the 18s are. So Scotty, what prompts you? You got this cushy setup. What prompts you to open one of the baddest ass wine shops in the United States?
Yeah, great question. I got the opportunity. I grew up in hotels, and I basically had a love for food and wine at a very early age. My father was a chef hotelier, and I used to have wine. And so wine was kind of a hobby all the way through working these great places. And I lived in London. I studied with the quartermaster sommeliers back in the day. And then, used to go to France and check out these places. And then, coming to America, it was just kind of hand in hand. So when this opportunity came to move to Napa Valley, I knew sort of deep down inside there was an opportunity to make some wine. And maybe.
Could you handle your phone?
Who's that?
Is that you?
I think it's Carlos actually in the background.
Fucking amateurs.
All right, Carlos, we know you're there.
I love Booker.
But anyway, so there was an opportunity. I worked at the hotels here. There was an opportunity. Some retail space became available in the V Marketplace here in Yountville, adjacent to the two hotels. So I kind of rolled the dice and said, screw it, let's get in here. So that was 14 years ago, and so touchwood, we're still here, even through earthquakes, floods, fires, pandemics, and if the locusts come, it's time to go. So that would be it.
I was there for the earthquake. Remember that?
We actually went back to sleep during the earthquake. We were all worried about you.
That was so crazy. I've never lived through an earthquake before.
It's just
And in the middle of the night, the whole place started shaking. I didn't know what was going on, and things started hitting the floor.
You thought the person you were with was getting a little frisky, is what you thought. Listen,
I only wish they had that kind of energy.
Now we're talking. Let's go. It's just a dance party. Earthquake, you just go with it. So Scotty, great story, you guys. If you've never been to V in Yountville, I like to just roll in and check shit out. It's every legendary, iconic wine in the world is on the shelf there. So, Robin, let's jump into you. We all know that your day job. You've done obviously a lot of things, but the day job you're most famous for is keeping the reins together on the Howard Stern show. And all of our friends have been such big fans of yours. Scott was a big fan before he met you, but you're from New York, New Jersey. So my guess is when you got into wine, New York, New Jersey is a bunch of fucking fancy, hoity-toity rich folks, and so they made you become a Francophile. And really,
that's exactly not how it happened.
That's good to know.
I used to go to a bar and order a cocktail, and whenever I was talked into trying wine, I didn't know what it was. It was just like, oh, your guys are having white wine, I'll have one too. And I didn't like it. It was usually just the house wine or something, and it was pretty bad. And so I didn't understand what wine was all about. I wondered why there were some people who, talked about it like it was a religion. And when I went to Napa, that was by accident. It wasn't like I planned a wine trip. A friend of mine who I've known all my life, we kept losing each other over the years. So she said to me, you know what, let's take a trip every year, and then we know we'll reconnect. And our first trip was out to Napa. And that's when I started to learn about wine. Because I thought it was going to be this little place, very, homesy and country, and there'd be some stands on the side of the road with barrels.
What year was this?
2001.
Oh, so shit! You've been into this for 20 now. Okay.
Yeah. And so I got there and I went up to the concierge and I said, we want to do the wine regions in this area. So I figured we'd spend a day in Napa, a day in Sonoma, and a day in Mendocino, I said to her. And she said, well, I don't know how we're going to do that because in Napa alone, there are 400 wineries. And I was like, really? I don't think we're doing this in a day. And so that she sort of set me up with a couple of places to go over, a couple of days. And that's how I started my wine drinking adventure. And it was a couple of years of finding something great, and then also winding up in someplace terrible until I met Scott.
And then Scott took a bunch of your money and
then told me he was going to teach me about wine.
and left you in a very good spot. See, I would have guessed that the New York jet set sucked you in, told you you're supposed to, convinced you to be a Francophile, which I kind of liken to you wanting a bloke that's French or British, and then you see him smile and they got bad teeth, kind of like the Irishman. But you're still convinced they're going to be romantic. And then finally, the closer you get, they start to smell. And that's, Scotty, how I kind of look at a lot of the French red wines of the world.
Well, I don't know what I was drinking way back then, but none of it was very appealing to me. And once I got to California, and then, a couple of years in, we realized there was a difference between good wine and not so good wine. And, we made a pact that we were never drinking bad wine again because life was too short. And so, but they grow absolutely everything in California.
Yeah.
So I never knew where I was, what I was drinking. And that started my adventure into going back to where it all started. And I've had some wine trips to Burgundy and Bordeaux and a few other places. And that really taught me how to appreciate the wines from particular regions and what the Bordeaux blend is, and all of that stuff.
Time and place.
You can't really get a handle on in California.
No, time and place. And having someone like Scott that has such a deep background, because you remember, I just farm and make wines. I don't have remotely the background that Scott has. So
he's ridiculous. Yeah.
I have one thing guides me, and that is just make it yummy. Yeah. It's based on my palate. So the beauty of you meeting Scott is Scott's going to find out what you like, and he's going to be able to direct you. And that's where Scott's been so successful. But listen, everybody's got a Scott Lewis. If you ever get a chance to buy from Scott or deal with Scott, you definitely want to do that. But if another important aspect of winemaking, find your local wine shop guy just on your corner for a quick Friday night that knows what you like. But the beauty of my relationship with Scott is Scott knows what I like. So if I need a wine, he bats about 980, it's the extremest.
Can I tell you, he just sent me not too long ago a case of wine that I might have gotten 3 bottles of that I could drink. And I was like, Scott, that had never happened before.
Whoa, Robin, we're live right now. I can't edit this.
I'm telling you, it's a very rare occasion in 14 years.
Scotty, let me help you, brother.
Home runs, except for that one. And so it can happen that, people's palates are different.
Well, I think that still the most famous story probably with you, Robin, is like the whole red burgundies with the Howard.
He's going to throw me under the bus now.
Not for me to throw you under the bus. And so Robin is out in Napa a few months prior, and she just did a trip to Burgundy. And she came in, and she was familiar with quite a few of the names. And so I introduced her to some of the higher tier, the Grand Cru of Burgundy. And so anyway, Robin, fast forward a few months later, is in New York, and it's probably you're wrapping up for the holidays or something like that.
No, it was just it was like an odd dinner. We just decided, Howard decided to throw a dinner and invite some of us.
And then basically he said, here, you're in charge of the wines. You know the wines, and you'll take it from there.
We were at Danielle, okay?
I approve that wine list.
Somebody playing a harp when you walk in. Yep.
Right, and they bring me this phone book that's the wine list.
Yep. Great restaurant.
And I thought, what am I going to do with this? Now everybody puts me on the spot just because I go to Napa every year. I'm supposed to pick the wine. So I'm leafing through the book and I don't know what I'm doing. And all of a sudden I find Burgundy and they have a Dujac. And I say, Howard, do you want to have a wine from a French winery that I have been to? And he says, yes. And so I ordered one bottle of wine. And I thought, well, that's a pricey bottle of wine, but it's only one. So I ordered that one bottle, and there were 6 people at the table. So one bottle just went just like that.
Wasn't going to happen.
And the sommelier comes over after he sees the bottle emptied, or after it emptied, and he said, would you like another to me? And I said, no, you better go check with him. And I was doing that to try to give Howard the indication that he ought to look at what's going on here.
Robin,
like
wait a minute. Let me ask a question. What the fuck are we worried about Howard? You know what he makes. What?
Look, I didn't think we were going to have to wash dishes, but I didn't want him spending that kind of money if he didn't want to.
What else is he going to do with it?
So anyway, he's, 2 sips of wine, he's 3 sheets to the wind. And he's like, yes, bring us another one. And then there was another one. And so this was how the evening went. And, everything was great. And then he got the bill and he almost threw up. And so he just went along and he paid it and never said a word to me until we got back on the air Monday morning. And I was all happy to see him and everybody else. And I was like, hey, we had a great time this weekend. And he said, I have a bone to pick with you. I was like, what could it be? And he says, when somebody says you can pick the wine, you don't choose an $800 bottle of wine.
Robin, I believe it was 900. I think so.
Might have gone up since then.
It was perfect, though.
Oh, it was hysterical because, he was like, I did get a great story out of it.
Yeah, and he's never stopped using that story.
Never stopped. It goes on and on and on and on.
So we'll jump into Grenache right now, Ripper.
This is really good.
So, Robin, if you haven't spent a lot of time with Grenache, so Grenache is, we would, a lot of us here call it the Pinot Noir of the Rhone. So if you like Burgundy, now this one's way too masculine right now. It's still, my wines usually bounce back at a bottle shock immediately. This one's just still showing very big weight and density. So normally what this is going to show and will in probably 2 months, it's going to show a lot of red fruits like Burgundy does. It's Grenache and Pinot are very light in color, very red fruit driven, strawberries.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting, a lot of red fruit.
As opposed to what we would get into with a Cabernet with more black fruits or a Syrah. But Grenache is such a beautiful, if you've ever spent any time, one of your next trips. Scotty, have you been to the Rhone?
I haven't, no.
That could be a trip that the 3 of us take. It's a when you go tasting, in some cases, you're going into a house. And by the way, a house that has 200 or 1,500 point wines, and they'll taste you in their kitchen. It's just a trip. It's like time forgot a lot of Chateauneuf de Pape, and there's this castle, fortress village like there are so many of in France, Avignon, where you stay, And of course, it's a fortified, so you got to drive down these narrow roads, basically into a fortress that was built, probably in the 1600s to protect them. But Grenache, when it's well made, to me is my favorite grape in the world because it's so diverse. This wine could go with a steak, and in its leaner years, like 17, it can go with cheese and fish just as well as a big Chardonnay. So that's the Grenache. Robin, I'm going to jump to you real quick with a quick question. Do you?
I was going to say I need a refill.
Do you get it?
I'm enjoying it.
Do you remember? And Scotty, I'm going to come to you with this same question. Robin, do you remember your first bottle, your aha bottle, or at least the grape that it was where you said, "Oh shit, I've been drinking the wrong stuff"?
It was probably a Cabernet. I'm not going to necessarily, that's a long time ago now. But I think I would have to say, if I had to take a guess, because Dariush, they actually took me under their wing.
Yeah.
And sort of introduced me to wine tasting from the barrel and all of that stuff. And then really set me up with some really good wine. And I think that was the first moment I said, wow.
That's funny you say that.
Interesting.
That's funny you say that. That was one of my first go-to in like 90 when they first opened and they were in a trailer.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I couldn't get enough of that. They were one of the first to get a little bit on the riper style. Scotty, what about you? Yours is going to go way back, and there's no chance you remember what happened last night, but I've been to concerts and festivals with this guy. I'll guarantee he doesn't remember this. But Scotty, take a wild swing at it, buddy.
Okay, so just to follow up on the last conversation, when Robin first started coming out here, I was trying to remember some of the top wineries that she participated in going to. But Robin actually over the years has joined us for Wine Auction, has joined us for En Premier.
Oh shit!
She's done whiskey and brandy tasting in San Francisco.
I heard about that.
That was another time.
Talk about which one is a favorite. I mean, like,
let me tell you a story about him. You do not want to drink with him.
No.
You know what he used to do to me? So hold it, Scott. I work with this voice, right? This voice is very important to me.
Agreed.
And I had no idea that he had a wooden leg.
Hollow,
so,
too.
I'm sitting there drinking with him, and somehow my glass keeps getting refilled, and we'd go to these dinners, and there were 15 bottles of wine on the table. And so you start in the morning because you're going wine tasting. So you start off at the B wine cellar and you have a drink. And then you go off wine tasting, and then you have a wine tasting lunch. And then you go out to dinner with him and you're drinking and drinking and drinking. And there have been a few weekends where I woke up on Sunday morning without a voice.
Robin, real quick, I don't want to be rude, but did you have pants? I mean, did you have pants? I mean,
yes, always.
Okay.
And suspenders and whatever else.
Okay. And the door was closed and still chained, right? Okay.
I'd come downstairs with no voice. Now I can't even speak. And he'd be sitting in the lobby waiting for me, laughing, because I was losing my voice the night before, only I was too drunk to know it. And so I'm talking through it. Yeah. And he's now laughing because there's nothing left. And I go home that way. And on Monday morning, I get on the air squeaking. And Howard would say, "What happened to you?" And I'd say, "I was out in Napa." And he said, "Was it those wine guys? You stay away from them." And so he used to do that to me until I learned continually
Yeah, I think that Howard was not happy with Mr. Egan and myself for quite a long time. We had at his birthday party one night. He turned around and he's just like, or he was making laugh at the fact of like, you're bringing the wine guys. Why not bring the cutlery guys? Why not bring the anyway, answer your story there, Eric. So your question, the wine that really sort of like blew the socks off of me at an early age. My father poured me a 71 Latache, and so he poured it too young. But anyway, he was the beneficiary of Domaine Romanée-Conti, and how do you get better after that? So at an early age, and that was my aha moment. What about you, Eric?
Well, let's go into that real quick, Robin, because you really need to know this, and you need to know it now before you end up with 70,000 bottles. What Scott just said, drink it too young, is one of the greatest lies told in the history of the world. What other business could you possibly be in? What are these expensive bags? Birka bags?
Yes. Yeah. Birkin bags.
And beautiful dresses and Prada and Vera Wang. Could you imagine if you went into Vera Wang and she made you a dress and she said, Robin, you can't wear this dress for 10 years. It's going to scratch you and itch you and not be comfortable, or a pair of shoes, Louboutins. You would say, Vera, you can kiss my ass. But yet
I would say, what have you got that I could wear right now?
But the wine business has pulled this scam off because the British press, you're Irish, so don't take it personal, Scotty. The British press and I think probably in wartime and other things, without chemistry and science, everybody picked too early, right? The rains would come in Bordeaux, so they had to get it off the vine. So the wines were green, acidic. They were basically shitty, mostly undrinkable probably. And so what they figured is, well, if you age it, a lot of the shit goes away and it just tastes like something else. And so in today's world, don't ever let this fancy fucking guy that's got a lot of licenses and he does happen to own a wine shop, does happen to taste with the most important people in the world of wine, but it is a scam to think you need to age it. Here's my thought on aging. If you taste a 10-year-old wine and you say, I like these secondary flavors better than when this wine was 1-year-old or 2-year-old, because it loses a lot of its fruit, the wine mellows out a lot. I like vivaciousness, right? Then you're one of the 1%ers in the world and you should age your wine. But for the most part, 99% of the world, including France now that they taste it, like fresh, ready to go wines. It doesn't mean that we don't want a wine to be able to age for 30 years, because the fun of the three of us getting together somewhere and opening a bunch of wines is like, oh, cool, man, let's see how this evolved. Let's see what happened here. But here's the bottom line. My people that are on here, they know this. When we get in the mirror naked at our age, we don't seem to look as good as we did at 21. And so if I hear one more person, I'm going to choke them, try to tell me that a wine has to be old to be great or needs age, because I look at myself in the mirror and quite frankly, Robin, I don't like what I see naked, because I remember the spry, tan, now I got some shit going here and there. I don't need to see it. So that's my counterpoint to him. Scotty, I grew up with no money, no wine. Wine was a luxury on Thanksgiving, which is why I created my Harvey and Harriet, my brand from the West Side, with no sugar, no shit, no mega purple that all these other clowns put in their $30, $40, $50 bottles. My aha moment was at about 22. I hated wine. Went into a Bertolucci in South San Francisco. I think it's still there, in a Notre Dame Stanford game. My friend's dad took us out, and it was an Italian wine. I couldn't tell you what it is. I know he liked the gold label Reserve Ducale, which it was kind of a starter Italian for a lot of us in the day. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a guy in a tuxedo. Now, looking back, it was probably a dirty tuxedo because it wasn't a fancy restaurant, but it was Italian, so they wore the, the whole get up. But to me, from that day on, my life was changed forever. So that was my aha moment. Now, moving on, so I shut my mouth. Robin, your funnest wine trip to date? Where was it to? And what made it so fun?
Oh, geez. I think my most fun wine trip outside of the United States was to Burgundy, because I went with two dear friends, one of whom is not with me anymore. And I love the region. I love that, once again, maybe you're not sitting at somebody's kitchen table, but you're sitting in some little room, some little cellar.
Yeah.
And they're talking about their family tradition and how many vintages there have been over time. And, their 2 rows of grapes somewhere. And it just was wonderful. It was warm. It was wonderful. The food was great. The people were lovely. And they had incredible stories of hiding their wine during World War II. So the Germans didn't drink it all. And
building fake cellars.
Yeah. And so I just, just the company and the region, and I learned to love Pinot there. That was where I really got to understand Pinot. And I have to say, I still adore a Burgundy, a white Burgundy.
So white Burgundy's one of mine and Scott's go-to. I know that. I'm a big Chard guy, and white Burgundy. I'm either quite frankly, a Sonoma Coast Chard guy or white Burgundy. We're starting to do some really nice whites here that I like a lot. Scotty, what about you? What's your and be quick, because right after this, my follow-up question is what other than Burning Man, what's the what festival we're not going to talk about Burning Man, because what happens at Burning Man has to stay at Burning Man.
Burning Past will be next, but anyway, go ahead.
What's your favorite wine trip? And then your follow-up question, Scotty, give me your favorite music festival.
Okay, so right now I think when white Burgundy, Michel Nilon, I'm drinking just even the regular Bourgogne or the Baileys right now. The 17 and 18 vintages are phenomenal. I'm loving Dan Petrosky's Massican Chardonnay up here. Dan is the winemaker from Larkmead, and he makes it from Hyde Vineyard. It's about 200 case production, and it's got a great balance of mineral and fruit. And I think it's very elegant wine, very tasty. And then as far as my favorite festival, without a doubt, Eric, and we've been to a few together, but I think Lollapalooza, and more so just because it's not just about the music and the acts, but the town of Chicago is probably one of the best cities in North America for, food and wine. And the shows end early at 10 o'clock, and then we get out and we get after some of the, the top restaurants, which we have these magnificent meals, and what way to end up a great day after being, at Lollapalooza.
Robin, don't worry about the dinging. Scott invited some people on the actual Zoom call accidentally, and they're trying to do a message to get in. Or at least I got to throw somebody under the bus. Scotty, what you're also failing to mention, Robin, you would love this, because Scott will be in your lobby with whatever one of those little Australian things he hands me every morning and says, shut the fuck up, take this, and you'll be all right. And he's right. I'd like to know the ingredients, Scott. Make sure I'm not gonna fucking start hallucinating. But we do a big lunch, and Scotty at Shaw's Crab House, we do a lunch every day, Robin, before we go over to the show, and everybody brings all their baddest. We're drinking Salon and Solos, Cru. And then white Burgundy, the best of Napa and Sonoma Chardonnays, the best of Paso and Napa Reds, the best of Burgundy. Everybody brings all their stuff, and we get together and we have this huge lunch, and it's just a shit show. Oysters, and and then we all head over to Lala and go see the acts we want. And then, like Scott said, afterward we jump into town. Um,
So
yeah,
that's the great thing about wine. It just brings people together and you just have a good time with your friends.
Robin, what's your go-to right now?
My
White and
go-to
red.
right now, I'm drinking a lot of champagne.
Yes, you are, young lady.
Yeah.
What's your go-to? Robin, I'm going to give you a tip. Try to get 375s if it's a work night. You don't want. You guys already told me quit being a pussy. I know, but I like 375s because it allows me to start the night with a 375, and then move into a white, and then move into a red. What's your go-to champagne right now?
Oh, geez. Scott sends me these wonderful champagnes, and I don't even look. I just and sometimes I'm like, wow, they're just all great. What have you been sending me?
Grower producer
No,
Scotty.
I've been sending you a mixture of I think some of my favorite bubbles right now. One we're drinking here is the Palmer, Chateau Palmer champagne, which is great acidity, great freshness to it. And it's a great value champagne as well. What just happened in the last couple of years, all these grower champagnes have become a lot more affordable and approachable. The Delamont, which is a classic, which is right close to Trilmanil, which is next to Salon or partners of Salon, which rang for the buck. That's probably one of the best sparkling wines out there. Yeah. We're addicted to Hard champagne. I've sent you some of the what else have I been sending you? Some of the Gerhardt or Piho Simone. So it's just eclectic bottles, 750s. By the way, Eric, the woman drinks 750s. She doesn't need 375s. Not like you people down in Paso there.
You don't want me to cut your paycheck in half, you son of a bitch. Hey, Scotty, what are you drinking now? What is there a go-to right now? Is it bubbles? Is it white? Is it red? It's all of the above, I know, but where are you finding yourself?
I mean, because of the heat up here in the last. So, by the way, in Napa, I don't know if you've been experiencing this down in Paso, Eric, but they were saying it's like this is one of the hottest start of the summers or start of the years thus far in history. So we've had a couple of weeks back to back 100-degree temperatures.
It's our coldest, Scotty.
But we have one of the rosés I'm drinking right now, which I love a lot, is XYZ from Artie Johnson, the artistic rosé. Fantastic rosé, and anyway, beautiful wines he's making. He's actually making some wines out of Paso as well, I believe.
Yeah, Artie's a stud. He's making some Syrah, Grenache. He's married to beautiful Shannon Staglin from the legendary Staglin Vineyards, who have done probably more for charity than anybody in the United States of America in the wine industry. But Artie's making great stuff. Robin, have you met Artie?
No, I don't think so.
We got to.
I haven't met him. No.
We'll make that connection. We'll get everybody down here to Paso in the guest house, and we got a couple guest houses. Robin, I'll put yours. I'll board up the door because I don't need any knocks late night. When you go to bed, I want you to be able to go to bed. I don't need these knuckleheads. I'll go to Napa with these guys, Robin, and I do the Irish goodbye. I don't break the party up, man, because
You just
because I know Scotty has a hollow leg and a wooden one from what you said. And he's got a couple wooden teeth actually as well. But we'll talk about that later. That was an accident.
Hey, Eric, so when we got these to try these wines, which we were very excited to, and thank you because I know these wines are just about being released, and they really are showing fantastic. But I asked our good friend Mark Gunn from Atlanta if he wouldn't mind doing a little fondue for us. So he kindly agreed. He's out here on vacation. I think he's going to go see you this week.
So Mark Gunn owns the Melting Pot franchises in Atlanta. He's a great friend, has a house right across from V Wine Cellars. Mark and me did a virtual with the Melting Pot. Gunny, this is the brand new 18 fracture. Robin, it's 100% Syrah. So Robin, Syrah is going to be a lot like Cabernet, except it doesn't get as tannic. It generally has a little more color, especially out of Paso, but you don't get the enormity because you don't get the tannins. It's a chemistry equation of tannins, anthocyanins, and other phenolic compounds that build it up. But 100% Syrah, you get a chance. Scotty, send her a bottle of Artie's next time as well. Something more than a month old, hopefully. But so this is Fracture Syrah. Mark, what fondue did you make up, bud?
Same one that we did. So I just did our traditional cheese fondue, which is like the 50% Emmentaler Swiss, 50% Gruyere, and then we just got some meats and breads to dip into. But same exact one that we made a few weeks ago.
Robin, have you ever done a fondue party?
No, I have not.
It's
Robin, I'll come to your house and do a fondue party for you. And
Thank
then
you.
Yeah, he's a fun guy, actually. I don't know what the fondue, but anyway.
yeah.
So now you're going to make all of our mouths water, huh?
this is what happened.
This is something he prepared earlier.
So yeah, I'll let Scott get on the sound.
So basically, this cheese fondue, you could dip everything in it: your broccoli, your carrots, your vegetables, the meats. And when we did it, we did several of them, and it's just so much fun at a dinner party. It's just a great way to go. On another topic, real quick, Robin, at home, let's talk about music. What are you listening to right now?
Oh my God, I'm the worst person to ask that question of, because I just turn on a favorite station.
That's
on
okay.
Sirius.
That's okay.
That's
what station?
what I do.
What
I
station?
love Lithium. I love Turbo. I love 90s rock, and every once in a while I'll slip over to classic vinyl. A couple of weeks ago, they turned the whole channel over to Led Zeppelin. And I happened to be driving one day, and I turned it on and listened to a whole Zeppelin concert. It was so much fun while I was driving, to think, because I saw Zeppelin back in the day, and to just be cruising and listening to them go from one hit to another, it was awesome. So that's how I enjoy my music these days. I don't want to select it. Except some of the newer artists like Billie Eilish. I'll get an album of hers and listen to it because she's so interesting. And if I hear of somebody else, that I want to just check out, I might check them out because they're getting a lot of buzz or whatever. But in general, when I'm just relaxing, I just want to let Sirius select my music.
Billie Eilish is awesome. Saw her at Lala. Her management was just here tasting. Her brother Phineas is talented, writes all her music. But I listened to that same live Led Zeppelin that you did the other day. So I like Lithium a lot. I like Classic Rewind. I like vinyl, classic vinyl. But at home, I'm everything from Zeppelin radio, Tom Petty radio, to Pearl Jam radio, to 90s, Stone Temple Pilots, who I got to hang with Scott Weiland when he was alive and somewhat coherent, and RIP, but freakish show, Stone Temple Pilots. Dave Grohl is one of the greatest artists and human beings in the world. I know you guys have had him. His show is just legendary. How he bounces his head, and A, that thing doesn't come off his fucking neck, and B, he doesn't have a headache that is the worst, is beyond me. But I'm a big Billie Eilish, Post Malone, Migos. Robin, go next time you're just chilling, put on Bob Moses radio on either Spotify or Pandora. Scotty, what do you got spinning at home?
But actually, I was just going to say, reminding Robin, we went to see Talking Heads.
Oh my God, that was such a great show. Utopia
In New York.
Amazing.
With David Byrne. I think, actually, Eric, you were there for at Lollapalooza.
Saw him at Coachella too, yep.
We're at Coachella, and that was kind of the whole sort of, he had the whole band play, but nothing was static. Everything was moving.
Yeah.
Little instruments. Remember, Scotty? They stand around. No shit, Robin. They have instruments this big.
Yeah. Well, we went to the show in New York. They did a show in New York for a few months, and it was a huge success. So we went to that in December. That was a lot of fun. But the band I'm listening to a lot right now is Black Pistol Fire. It's
I
have
to write that down.
Combination of Led Zeppelin, The Killers, with a bit of with a lot of rock and a lot of heart. Two brothers. They're out of Canada but live in Austin, and they play like there's 5 of them in the band.
Wow.
I got to see them live a few times, and yeah, Black Crystal Fire. Check it out.
Well, Scotty, we got to see Burn at Coachella, and they were all in a circle on those little instruments. And then after that, weren't you just randomly getting ready to? We were chilling in VIP, and weren't you getting ready to watch Beyonce? And all of a sudden, David Byrne's sitting next to you. I got a man crush on him. He's everyone thought he was goofy looking and talking heads with those glasses. He's extraordinarily attractive. Weren't you standing next to him, Scotty? And he was just chilling?
For a while. We had a good laugh. Because I was checking out, he's Irish. He's obviously born in America, but his family, his parents were from Northern Ireland, or his father was from Northern Ireland. So kind of the Irish connection there. But yeah, he was a gentleman. I mean, I've just seen him, and he's got to be in his 60s now.
70s or maybe early.
I think early 60s at least.
Yeah.
He's been around since he's been around since the late 70s, early 80s. So, but yeah, I mean, still pumping out the music. I mean, his energy was just phenomenal. But yeah, really cool guy to talk to. And of course, I invited him for wine and whatever. But anyway.
Well, I'm really sorry. You know what I found out after we saw him in New York? They wrote me an email and they said, "Oh, you didn't come backstage after the show." And I was like, well, I never do that unless somebody really, says they want me to do that. And I was like, oh, I'm never telling Scott.
Robin, let's
I reunited you.
I got 2 more questions for you guys. Robin, you're the queen of New York and have been for 30 years. My guess is, like, you got somebody that carries you around. Do they walk like this with you on the shoulders? Or does the car service pick you up? And then when you walk in a restaurant, do you go in the back door? Do you take advantage of
celebrity? I really go into the back doors of many places. I've done those things where they're taking you through the bowels of hotels to get to the ballroom and stuff like that. And that's not really that much fun. So I'd rather just deal with it and walk through the front door. But, it's in New York, you're sort of like, oh, there she is. And they let, you don't get bombarded.
So you get to live your life. You get to be a New Yorker. Really cool. Really cool. Scotty, what about you? You got a shop that, my guess is if I was a betting man, that I would say your shop has probably had more celebrities in and out of the doors than any other wine shop in the United States. Actually, potentially any wine shop in the world. Who have you seen pre-COVID? Do a little name dropping, and then Robin, I'm going to ask you to do a little name dropping of who really is interest you when you get to interview. Like, do you ever get gaga? So Scotty, you go first.
Well, one of our regulars who always comes in here is the ex-governor, Arnie Schwarzenegger. So he comes. He comes in, picks up a cigar, and this is my favorite one up in California. I'm like, right on. I mean, because I know he lives down in LA, and you've got some really great wine shops down there. Beckham comes in here all the time. Robin Quivers comes in all the time. Yeah, we have a lot of interesting people that come in. Recently, we had Vince Vaughn with his father. They were pretty cool, actually. Will, what's his name? Will, the comedian, Will Ferrell. Mark.
Okay, that Will.
So yeah, there's a lot of sports stars, and there are a lot of people in sports that come through the valley, and unfortunately, I don't know a lot of them, but there's a lot of basketball players and football players, and a lot of sport. Graham McDowell, a lot of the golfers, Rory McIlroy.
Well, Scott, that's you really don't like sports. You like, what do you guys call it? Cricket and Gaelic and,
Yeah, whatever that stuff is.
I don't even know what the fuck that stuff is.
We'll give you a lesson.
Football with a round ball.
Yeah. Right. Robin, have you ever had a guest? It's had to have happened where you're like kind of fired up and smitten because you've had everybody, right?
That happens all the time. I remember once Paul McCartney came in, and it was
Sir Paul
between
McCartney.
marriages, and I actually took my shot. I said, Paul, at the time I was vegan, and I was like, I'm a vegan, you're a vegan. And he was like, I never expected this today. But yeah, I said, why not?
You
I'm
swung the
here.
bat.
I might as well take my shot.
I saw him in Vegas, and he's still attractive. I saw him last year, and I was like, the dude still could be on GQ magazine. I mean, just, yeah, what a guy.
Yeah, generally, I hate to, present company excluded. The British don't usually age that well.
No, and their teeth never age at all. They fall out. And they become wood. Hey, real quick, you guys, we'll wrap up and let everyone get to their dinner. But Scotty Lewis, do you care to tell Robin about Rod Stewart's ex-wife in the whiskey bar having the party and Colin Farrell, that story at Sunset Marquee? Or would you rather tell the story when you get the phone call and you're at the Marquee and your buddy says, get your ass to the whiskey bar, and it's Brady and, or not Brady, but Pitt and Clooney, and you instantly, everyone thought you were some Irish A-lister. Close us with one quick, and give us one quick one, Scotty Lewis.
Okay, so very quickly, we had the Rolling Stone suite at the Sunset Marquee in Los Angeles. My good friend down there, Rod Guendijk, always gives us the nicest rooms down there, and it so happens we've got the Keith Richards suite. So anyway, we're after coming out of a Doors reunion. Scott Weiland actually played Jim Morrison in this. It was like it was a very short-lived tour of the Doors reunion in LA, obviously without Jim. Anyway, so we got back to the Sunset Marquee, and it was Rachel Hunter, I think her name was, Rod Stewart.
Oh, when he was married to Rachel, okay.
So she was after getting divorced from Rod. She was finalizing, so she was out with some girlfriend. So as the Sunset Marquee, the whiskey bar, closes down early, so we all made our way back to the suite. And there's about, 40 people in the suite, and it's going off, no needless to say, music is going. And the Sunset Marquee sort of prides itself in that, it's where rock stars live, and the place only starts coming alive at about 2 or 3 in the morning. However, this particular morning, I think we pushed all the thresholds. And so somebody, then I get a phone call from security saying like, hey, downstairs is complaining about you. And I was like, who is it? He said, some Irish guy. I'm like, okay, I'll go down and fix this. So anyway, I went downstairs and I'm like, if it's an Irish guy, I'm just going to invite him to the party, problem solved. And so anyway, I come out and it's Colin Farrell. And he's just given up drinking. And he's like, no, I can't drink, and I can't come to your party. And no, I'm not. By the way, I think you've seen Britney Spears at the time. So there you go.
Really? I didn't even know that happened.
There you see.
Let me break that down.
But anyway, I said, well, anyway, the party's not turning down, so we'll see you later. So that was it from the story.
No, that's not the end of the story. He told Scott, hey man, I'm sorry. I'm on the fucking wagon. And Scotty looks at him and says, well, no, that's your fucking problem, isn't it?
Politely.
That's great. Oh, that's hysterical.
Robin, do you have anything greasy like this? Of course, as he drops Rachel Hunter's name, you're all, oh, Rachel Hunter, were they married? Because, of course, you interviewed her probably and hung out with her for a half hour. Do you got anything that would excite us that you care to divulge? I think you said nothing was off limits. You want to spill any beans about any of your late nights at the Sunset Marquee?
Oh, geez. We didn't really, working our hours, we didn't have any really late nights at the Sunset Marquee. When we were out in California working, we stayed at the Sunset, but it was very tame because we had to be up to broadcast. But I remember the first year we went out there, Ozzy Osbourne was living there with his entire family. They just lived there. And so it was the Prince of Darkness walking around in the middle of the day with all that black on and his eye makeup and the whole thing. And then there were these cute little girls, his daughters, wearing little white pinafores, with these, with their hair all in braids or pigtails. And it was like, how could Ozzy Osbourne be their dad? So you get this dichotomy of, what he was like, and then he's got this sort of normal looking family. And that was when Howard said to him, you ought to do a TV show because no one would believe your life. And eventually they wound up on MTV, letting everyone see their lives.
Well, it was Sharon.
Howard was the first one to suggest that to them.
It was easy to see why it was Sharon. It was not Ozzy.
Absolutely. He wasn't keeping anything together. I remember a story that Sharon told us that, one year to get Ozzy to rehab, she told him, she was like, Ozzy, you got to go to rehab. And he's like, I'm not going to any fucking rehab. And she said, no, you don't understand. This is the one where they teach you how to drink socially. So he goes and he gets to his room and he unpacks and then he comes downstairs at this rehab and he says, where's the bar? And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, the bar where you're going to teach me how to drink. And they said, I don't know who told you that, but that doesn't exist here. This is we teach you how not to drink kind of place. So yeah, he was hysterical.
Well, in the words of Amy Winehouse, I ain't gonna go to rehab. I'm trying to learn to stop before I get to those points. But
there you go. Yeah, it's supposed to be fun.
Yes, I don't want to lose my card. It's too much fun. You guys, what a great time. Scotty, you're the man. For everybody on Booker's list, you guys have to. When you get to the valley, you got to go look at this Irishman. Hopefully you catch him on a good day, and it's the night hasn't run into the day. But if you get with Scott, you get what you get. He's still got the sharpest wine mind I know. Can't see it. I don't have my glasses.
Yeah. What do you say? He said he doesn't have his glasses.
Notre Dame, baby, Notre Dame.
Go Irish. I can't see anybody on the damn screen. But Robin, it's awesome to hear your stories. Thanks for entertaining us. Gunny, thanks for the.
Thank you for the wine.
Yes.
You got it. Everybody, please, I'm begging y'all. It ain't fucking political. Just put a fucking mask on, man. This shit's coming back, and guys like Mark Gunn with all these restaurants, Scotty Lewis with his shop. We can't do business without you guys, so don't politicize this shit. Just put the fucking mask on and stay safe, stay healthy, keep your mentals up.
Yeah, I want to get back to Napa and Paso. Come on.
So
yeah,
Robin,
well, road trip, Robin. I think it's definitely overdue. It's a fun little trip down there, and Eric has got a beautiful spot down there. There's a lot of there's so many great people down there, just because it reminds you of probably what Napa was back in the early 70s and whatever.
hey, fucking easy, the early fucking 70s, bro. I mean, let's slow our roll down a little bit. The big difference, Robin, is it's very, very normal. There's not a lot of Lamborghinis. There's not a lot of Ferraris. You don't have to wear your Rolex out at night, and you don't have to pull your face back at all. But I love Napa. These are my buddies. Just jeans and a t-shirt are gonna do fine here in Paso. Love them both.
I love Napa. I would never say anything bad about Napa, but I'd love to visit you sometime.
You're coming here next. I'll be with Scotty next weekend in Napa. Scotty, we're gonna have a blast. Robin, everybody, the V Wine Cellars crowd, the Booker crowd, we appreciate you. Loosen up your fucking wallets and spend some money. And we love you. We'll make sure to always take care of you,
Drink
Robin.
wine in a pandemic. It's actually good for you.
Cheers, all. Have a great night. Happy 4th.